Have you heard when it's going to happen? I don't know. Do you think it's going to be in the spring? Do you think it's just going to be a recession? Is it stagnation? Is it stagflation? Is it more inflation? I don't know what's going to happen. What do we do? You know what we do? We calm down, because in this video, we're going to talk about 3 practical ways that you can get your crap together right now to stop being stressed out. Now, one thing that I know for sure is that these buzzwords are going around, and they've been going around for at least 18 months. And we all know that the news and the headlines are going to make them even crazier sounding, because that's how they sell ads and how they get their money, right? So we need to step back and take a breath, because I'm going to tell you all about what you need to do in this video. When thinking about this video, I took myself back to 2008 when I left my job in an industry that was going down the can. No, if you're not familiar with 2008, that's when we had this last big old crash, right? And I ended up taking another job where I was making 60% less than my previous job. And for some reason, I did all the wrong things. I took out more debt. I kept living above my means. I had no idea what was going on. Of course, at the time, I was in my like early 20s. Yeah, not mid 20s, early 20s. And it's been, what, 13 years since then? 14 years? 15, 14, I think. I can't counting. And we've been wondering, when is this shoe going to drop? So I thought back, and I've learned so much in the span. When I think back to 2008, it is crazy the changes that have happened in my life, and especially my financial life, and what I've learned. And I thought, what would I have needed or wanted to share to me then? And that's how I kind of put this video together, to say, this is what I wish I had known or I had done. Now, the first one is really important, because overall, securing your income is extremely important. Now, I'm not saying this is going to guarantee you're going to keep your job, but this is certainly could help. And it's just a good lesson to learn overall. So I like to call this one, are you working while you're at work, or are you working while you're at work? You want to be seen as a valuable person on your team. You want to be seen as the one that they need, not as dispensable. Dispensable? Yeah. You want to be the one who is open to learning more about the business, not the one who says, that's not my job, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not getting paid. Why am I going to do that? Now, I'm not saying let your employer take advantage of you, but be open to learning. This is how I have advanced in my career, is I will sit in on other positions and listen to the meetings, and I learn such valuable nuggets. I won't be sitting there on my phone. I won't be sitting on my computer typing out an email. I will be learning from the people who came before me. This has been extremely important. I encourage you to do it if you aren't already. This is going to be impactful in 3 ways. The first is the increased possibility that you will be kept on in case of downsizing. Now, again, as I said earlier, not always, but if you were a leader and you had to consider 2 people in the same position, would you downsize the one that's been working, been excited to learn new things and take on new opportunities, or the one that's just taking up space and taking a paycheck? Number 2, this is an increased potential for raises or bonuses or advancement. Often people within a corporate setting, and again, I'm not talking about all settings here, I'm talking about the ones that I'm familiar with. So if this isn't for you, move on. I think you can take some value from it though. But they look at who's currently already here with the company that I can look up, I can have and put in an advanced position, who's ready to take on more duties. That is a smart company that does that, because they've already invested time and money into that employee. The third way that this is impactful is it can increase the chances that you might get recruited from someone outside of your company. Because those who interact with you daily at your job outside of your company will see how fantastic you are, how much of a diligent worker you are, how responsive you are. And perhaps the company they work for, or maybe even the company they worked for after that, they're looking for somebody and they think of you and they reach out to you. Oftentimes what you'll see is there's a company and they have an opening. They'll go, hey, everybody, who do you know? And wait, I worked with Susan at my last job. She was fantastic. She would fit in perfectly here, and it would be an advancement for her. Let's reach out. This did happen to me. Now, on a side note, the important part here is always keep your resume up to date. even if it's just for, possible layoffs, or in that case of a recruiter or somebody from another company calling and saying, yes, so and so recommended. How can you send me your resume? Keep that resume up to date, especially if it happens, and I hope it doesn't, and there's a layoff. It happened to my father at a senior age, and it was devastating. Have that resume ready to go. Don't get so comfortable in that, okay? Number 2 is very important. You have got to get your expenses under your control, and I want to capitalize the YOUR, your control, because nobody is going to do it for you. You have to do it. So you're going to lay out your expenses. It's time to get involved. No more sitting around by the sideline saying, well, I hope my money figures out what it's supposed to do, Doesn't it know what to do? This is going to be an evening's worth of work. You're going to sit down with a pencil, paper, some bank statements, list all of your debts, find them all, list everything out. I know, just put all the cards on the table. Then you're going to figure out your average reoccurring bills, all right? Just what are the reoccurring bills that are always the same? Then you're going to pull 3 months worth of bank statements to figure out what you spend on those things that vary. Gas, groceries. You can also find other pockets of money that you spend on certain expenses categories that you need to allocate for. After you've done that and you figured out your budget, because that's the whole point of doing this, getting control of your money, I want you from here to figure out what is the bare minimum amount of money you would need to get by in a month. All right? Get real strict about it. Get real honest about it. Bare bones budget. You have your budget, okay? But show me a bare bones budget. This tip can help absolutely anyone because it can reduce a huge amount of anxiety, and it's often less than you even think about, okay? Now, if it's more than you thought, you might need to do some other reworking. But this is actually really great for a couple to reduce stress because it might make you realize that you could survive bare bones on one person's income if one of you lost your job. So it's one of those things that can be comforting if you do it, if you sit down and figure out what is a bare bones budget. We have absolutely done this. We know what bare bones is and what the minimum income we would need to get by. The next step is to tighten your lifestyle, all right? And it's probably just temporary. What are you paying for that you don't value and you aren't even using? Go ahead and get rid of that. And then from there, what can you freeze for now while you get your financial house in order? This doesn't mean that you will never have that membership again or you'll never go out to a nice dinner. It's just a moment in time so that you can squirrel away and get comfortable to weather whatever times are ahead. It's a sacrifice for now for a future you. Now let's jump back to the budget part that I kind of talked about earlier because that was the whole point of figuring out your expenses, right? Put a good budget together. Now, you've got your bare bones one because that's a good FYI, but a good budget, and you want to stick to it. You want to track your spending. You want to look at your budget daily, at least every other day, at least every week. Every time you make expenses, look at your budget, okay? Reevaluate that budget every single month or even every pay period if that makes it easier for you. A budget is a best guess, okay? And as you get better at it, it will get more accurate if that works. So it takes, I would say, about 3 months to really take a budget and get it where it's supposed to be. And don't get discouraged if you're over in every single area the first month. It's a try. You're just taking, or if you have an item that's a budget buster, that can oftentimes make people feel bad. It is a best guess. It is not supposed to be 100% accurate. It's supposed to be as close as possible and a guideline for you. Now, why are we even doing this? Why are we looking at our expenses? The point here is because we're going to talk about another part of this in just a second. But you want to widen that gap between income and expenses. Create a gap as big as you can because that's how you can take that money and to pay off debt, build a bigger emergency fund, stash it away for another reason, or a combination of those, all of which are going to vary depending upon your financial situation and are going to change during different periods and stages in your life as well. On number 3, we're building on the first 2. You've got making sure that you're doing the best you can in the current position, job, income that you've got, right? The second is trying to reduce those expenses as best you can, getting control of your money. Now, the third one is, again, we're going to try to widen that gap between income and expenses. And oftentimes people think only about one side versus the other. They think about how saving money and or spending less, but they don't think about necessarily increasing their income. They just continue on with the one stream. Well, if you really want to make a difference, this is where you can do it. There aren't so many ways that you can reduce your expenses, but there are a lot of different ideas, maybe small, maybe large, of ways you can increase your income. These are alternative income streams, because when you depend on one income stream, you are at the mercy of it, especially if you're in a financial mess. So I'm going to talk about some ideas just to get your mind whirling around different potentials for additional income. Obviously, there are many more that you can probably think about or find online, but let's just talk about some broader ones. One is, think about how you can expand your skills with little to no money. This might help in the job that you're in, but it also might help find another passion. Maybe a mentor, YouTube. I know that YouTube was invaluable. I learned all about how to run a YouTube channel, how to film videos better, how to edit in Adobe Premiere Pro. I had no idea. I am not very technologically advanced at all. And I used YouTube to learn all of that. One category is to think about the things that people would rather pay somebody else to do. I'm talking about yard work, house cleaning. Maybe you have a neighbor in need who needs rides, frequent rides to doctor's appointments for somebody to wait with them, and they feel more comfortable if it's somebody they know rather than using a ride service. So this is thinking outside the box. Do you like to mow grass? Do you have extra time to do it? Then you've got things like side hustles, creative side hustles, ideas that you need to think about wouldn't have a huge outlay of cash up front, that you could get started with little to no money. I think to Etsy, where graphic designers go on there and they can make logos for businesses. I remember when I was searching and doing the candle business, which I'll talk about in just a second, I went on there and was looking at logos, and people will design a logo and then sell it multiple times, or they'll design sheets, study sheets for, I don't know, nursing school. There was a recent article about that, nursing school study sheets, and she made a ton of money selling these sheets that she created once and just kept selling. Little to no outlay. Now, the candle company that I tried and failed, and I'll link that video at the end of this one, does not fall into this. Many monies were outlaid for no reason. And then the most obvious ideas are taking on a part-time job. Many places are hiring. Maybe it's working on the weekends or a couple of nights a week. Obviously, if you've got little ones at home or kids in school, this may not be ideal, but not everything I talk about on my videos is 100% going to work for everybody. I think that's pretty obvious. We're just talking in a broad spectrum here. But maybe you deliver pizzas. I mean, I drove by a chain pizza place the other day, and it had $20 an hour, tips paid daily. Yeah, you may not be comfortable driving and delivering pizzas, but maybe you are. Sounds like a pretty good gig to me. Listen to your podcast on the way to and from and make over $20 an hour as a side hustle on a Friday or Saturday night. Maybe you decide there's a local boutique in your area and you work there on a Saturday to help the local owner out. Perhaps you just pick up a stocking job where you're stocking store shelves after hours. Remember, it's not forever. It is for a limited time. It's sacrificing for today to make for a better future. I want to know, what do you think about an upcoming recession, stagnation, inflation? Are you worried? Are you trying to take steps to put yourself in a better financial position? Let me know down below in the comments. I would love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you back for more videos.